Hi, welcome to our seminar on Steven Universe theories. I'm with my two accomplices, Jasper and Jacob. So, Jasper, can you tell the children what we're gonna talk about today?
Well, today, as you already know, we're talking about Steven Universe theory. Now, you're probably thinking, well, there's tons of Steven Universe theories out there, but the main one we're talking about today is a theory actually developed by our very own Jacob, who is in the call with me right now.
Yeah.
We already established that.
Yes, and
Hello.
we're going to
Jasper.
talk about how Steven, or well, at least we believe, or it's a theory. It's not completely proven because, the show creators haven't proven it yet, but we're sure it's probably true. Steven is actually brothers with Nick. Now, today we're going to look at. We have four pieces of evidence for this claim, and we're going to probably, like, by the end of this seminar, you're going to believe that Steven is brothers with Nick. That, or you're going to be one of the 8 people that's going to dislike this video. And so our first piece of evidence for this video that Steven is brothers with Nick is if we look at episode 35 in season 2. You'll notice that at 4 minutes and 7 seconds, when Steven and Nick are walking down the street towards... excuse me, not cough when I'm talking. Steven and Nick are walking down the street towards the barn, and they're talking to each other, and Steven, at 4 minutes and 7 seconds, refers to Nick as bro. Now, bro is, you may be thinking to yourself, bro is a commonly used term amongst
Gang members.
gang members and men alike.
Are you saying there's no female men?
Shh.
How about you
Gang
shut up?
members and men alike. That usually means like brother, but in a friendship sort of sense. Like, oh, he's my bro, he's my brother. You're like a brother to me. Well, if you listen to the connotation in Steven's voice, we're gonna slow it down for you. And here's a clip. Nick, you are my bro. Okay, so you hear that that sound clip, that sound bite. You're gonna be like, that sounds like Steven's voice. Yes, it is Steven's voice, and he is calling Nick his bro. Now, he says bro almost as if there's 2 syllables in the word. Now, how many syllables are in the word brother? 2 syllables in the word brother.
2.
1
Sorry.
syllable in the word bro. Now, if he's using bro, 2 syllables, he probably means brother. And I don't hear people call people brothers very often unless they actually are brothers. So that's our first piece of evidence that Steven is Nick's actual brother.
Right.
Now, our second piece of evidence dates back all the way to the first season, episode 3.
I love that
Now,
episode.
in this episode...
I cried at the end.
Oh, what? In this episode, Steven and Nick, as they do, go on a crazy adventure. Now, you see, at 4 minutes into this episode, 4 minutes and 7 seconds exactly, Steven and Nick are walking down the street toward the barn, and they realize someone's following them, and so they turn around, and there it goes. What does Steven say? Steven says, "Oh, brother." Now, this is usually an exclamatory term used by lame people, particularly losers or nerds. But this term, the connotation that Steven says it, he says, "Oh, brother." Now, listen to that, brother. Are there 2 syllables there? There are definitely 2 syllables. 2 syllables there. And so what does that mean? According to our last piece of evidence, that means Steven is referring to Nick as his brother. Okay. So now that we've seen we've heard the 2 sound bites of Steven talking to Nick, we're going to go toward the other side of the argument and talk about Nick towards Steven. How does Nick feel towards Steven? What are his feelings toward him? Now,
Well,
Nick throughout
can I just take over a little bit here?
Yes.
Because I think you're getting a little bit too much of light. So, if you listened to, I think it was season 7, episode, I think 2. Yeah, so Lucy, Steven's girlfriend, of course, went up and it's like, "Oh, you and Nick are like brothers." And I think, obviously, that's showing that maybe they are brothers.
Yes. Well, that's not even the piece of evidence I was talking about. I was talking about in season 2, episode 8. So we're talking about right now how Nick feels towards Steven, because we know that Steven believes Nick is his brother, but does Nick believe him back? Now, here's our evidence. So, in that episode, Season 2, Episode 4, Season 3, Episode 7, that's what it was. In that episode, Nick and Steven are walking down the street toward a barn, and they're talking. And they, in their talks, which they often give, they begin to hear, so Nick is talking to Steven, and Nick begins to hear this slight humming. And what's that behind them? Of course, it's a swarm of bees. And the bees come toward them, and naturally, Nick says, "Brother, help us." Now, what does this mean? Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have never heard the term "brother, help us" used in a conversation. Especially in a conversation between two brothers. That's probably the most likely place it's gonna be used. But still, it's not.
If you're in like Lord of the Rings.
Shut up. Theory. This piece of evidence. And you're probably wondering why, if they're both being chased.
Hold on, guys. I have a question.
Brother, help us.
I have a question. Now, hold on.
Yes?
I'm doing the Spanish homework, and how do you say it? Like what? Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
What's his personality?
Danny DeVito es agile.
Okay,
He's
thanks.
agile. Okay, anyway, back to the Steven Universe theory. So, now, he says, "Brother, help us." Now, if they're both in danger, why would he be asking Steven to help him? That leads me to my third piece of evidence. Steven and Nick have a third brother. Now, this third brother...
Can I interject really quick? I have a quick small theory.
Yeah?
With all these pieces of dialogue that we're bringing out, I sometimes think that Steven and Nick may like each other in more of a
well, we'll save that for evidence 4.
Well,
I'll be
let
back.
me just say, if you listen to Steven's father, Steven's father and mother are both relatives, so incest does run in the family.
Yes. Now, but back to evidence 3. So they say, "Oh, brother," meaning there might be a third brother. Now, if there is a third brother, I have a couple conclusions that we might jump to. One of them being that Kyle is actually Steven and Nick's third brother. But that's, it's probably not true. But that's, if I had to guess, he would be my guess, okay? My other only guess for their third brother would have to be Steven himself. Now, this is maybe a little confusing, but let me get it through your head. So, before you start disliking the video. So Steven, in the episode 4 of the first season, at the end of the episode, Steven goes into the machine, and it changes him, and it makes copies of himself. Now, by the end of the episode, all these copies are gone. They got rid of the copies. But if you look at the third frame in the 4th second of the 5th minute, you can see one of these copies walk off screen. And I think that is the third brother. That is the extra Steven that has been hanging around that only Nick knows about. And that's why Steven's a little confused when he yells out, "Brother, help us." But Nick knows, Steven doesn't.
Let me just butt in here. I just want to add, their family song. Now, listen to this really closely.
Now
No, it's still going. Don't worry. Let's just skip some good parts. That's a part of that family song.
Yes, and it sounds like from the family song that there are at least three voices of young men in that song. And you know what? There's only 2 brothers so far. So the third brother, you know who it has to be? It's either Kyle or the extra Steven. So now back to evidence 4. Evidence 4 is probably our weakest piece of evidence we have. But it's still evidence. Because you know what? You know what the definition of evidence is? I don't know. You